In this video, we're going to look at how to blow the flute. Now you'll notice I've just taken the head part of the flute, I've removed the body and the foot and put them safely away. So for this task, the first thing we're going to practice is actually even not with a flute head. We're going to just practice using our tongue. Now, let me demonstrate it and then I'll show you with my hands pretending to be my mouth. So here. So what I've done is I've got my lips. So there's my bottom lip, and my top lip's invisible, and here's my tongue. And I'm putting my lip on the tongue, and then I'm getting my air ready behind it so that it's like the tongue's the plug blocking the mouth. And then my air's ready behind it, and I start blowing, and as I start blowing, I pull my tongue away. That's my tongue, that's my lip. You can try putting a piece of rice on your tongue and seeing how far you can blow it. After you've blown it, you keep blowing until you run out of air. What we don't do is where you put your tongue there and just blow. I see students there, they don't remember to pull their tongue away and they just have their tongue sitting there as they blow out. So we don't want that. We want the tongue there and pull it away. So that's the first thing. Once you've done that, we're going to try and place the flute. Now, the way the flute head works is that our air stream that we're practicing by practicing blowing is going to hit the edge that's furthest away from our lip. So there's one edge sitting on my lip, and that gives it a, just here, that gives, it's sort of like a balance place, a feeling place, so you can feel, oh, that's my flute's in the right place. And then the air is, we want it to hit that edge. It's what's called an edge tone. The air actually splits in half off that edge. So we're not blowing into the flute, we're blowing into the edge, and our air splits in half. If we have too much air going on the top, it will sound really furry. And if we have too much air going in, then it will sound really insipid or have no sound at all. So the first thing, so you can do it with or without your tongue. So I'll do it without my tongue to start with. You can see my lips are very soft here. I'm not trying to force a smile. If you read someone say smile when you play the flute, no, we don't want that because we don't want any tension. We just want relaxed here. So relax, maybe even you can feel like you're frowning a little bit. So those lips are really soft there. So, oh, I think I tongued when I said I wasn't going to. And you can see that real sadness there. No smile, no tension, nothing, no tension in the cheeks. Okay, once you can do that, you can then add in the tongue, just like we practiced in the beginning of the video. So get the tongue ready, and if you look in the mirror, you can see it. And that starts the note. You might see some people talk about tonguing as being a T sound. That is not a lie. It is still true. However, I find this French tonguing, the French lip tonguing, is much easier in the beginning because you can look in the mirror and see what you're doing. And then later on, you might choose, oh, I'm going to use this sort of tonguing or this sort of tonguing. There's many sorts of tonguings described in our historical flute treatises. So you've got lots of options later on. But for the moment, look in the mirror, watch and see if you can see your tongue like you can see mine, a bit like a blue tongue lizard. And then you get a really clean beginning of the sound. And now this is when we start having some fun with it. So get your flute head, and what I want you to do is I want you to try and spin the flute head and see if you can still get a sound like this. Until you lose the sound. And then try the other way. So start blowing and tilt this way and see how long it is before you lose the sound. So that's seesaw. Now, next one is puppy whining. So you've heard a puppy whine when you've just got a new puppy and you put in the laundry for the night because you don't want to rip up all the sofa. So grab your flute and blow a note and roll the flute in. I just did that without tonguing so you can hear it. And then if you're really confident with your tonguing, you can do it with tonguing. Maybe I'll get this side so you can see. One, and then that's rolling in, and now we're going to roll out. Those two exercises are really good. So it sounds like we're just being silly, but we're actually training our mouth to be able to adjust what we call intonation. Later on when you're playing, you always want to play what we call in tune, which means that our sound matches the other people's sound. It also matches the sound of what we call perfect pitch, A440. So we want our sound to match that. If we can train our lips to adjust their sound, then we can play in tune without having to fiddle with our flute at all. So that's the second one. Third one. Now this one is actually an exercise to prepare our mouth for playing high notes. So what I want you to do is cover the end, and I want you to play the low tone. If you can't tongue it, then just blow without tonguing. You'll notice if I don't cover the end, I get a different sound. Now, still with the end covered, I want you to try and get more than one note. Now, the trick to this is it's all to do with how fast our air is. For today's game, aim your air maybe wherever you're aiming currently, and then a meter further, and then a meter further away. So you can get 3 different notes. So you might only be able to get 2 today, or even just 1, but it's a start. Every day you try and get your 3 notes, you'll get your mouth more and more ready for high notes. Another way of thinking of it, I'm not as happy with this way of thinking about it because it can produce tension, but I'll tell you anyway, and that is to imagine that you're blowing down, across, up. Don't know if you could hear the difference in the sound. It is a little bit more tense sound-wise, but that's a common way that high notes are taught, is to think about the angle of your air. Why? Because the angle of the air will actually change the speed of the air that's hitting the hole. But if you think about the distance for the moment, later on we'll talk about tongue height to control the speed of the air. For the moment, think about distance, or if that didn't work for you, you can think about angle and trying to get those 3 tones. And now, next thing we're going to just play Mary Had a Little Lamb. Now, if you can do it with your tongue, great. I'll try and demonstrate without my tongue. If I remember to not use my tongue, what we're going to do is we're going to get our finger and we're going to move it in. So, Mary had a little lamb. So we're using our finger to try and make the notes. And so on, or you could try whole cross buns. So just by seeing how far do I need to put my finger in to make a different sound. Next, sirens. Lots of air. That's your sirens. Now one more game before we put our flute head away. And that is, we're going to use our tongue, and we're going to do lots of tongue. So I'll demonstrate with my hands. So here's my bottom lip and here's my tongue, and we're going to take one breath, and then we're going to go. So imagine you're releasing the hole so the air can come out, and then you're plugging it again. But we're going to do it on one note like this. So did you see that? So the tongue just kept plugging. So you can start with the tongue if you want, or if it's easier, just start by blowing. And that's the last tongue exercise. So there you go. There's a whole heap of things to practice with the flute head. They seem silly, but all of them have a technical purpose that will help us as we look at more high repertoire later on. Have fun with your flute head.